Welcome, everyone. Welcome. CHIMAOGE here once again. Welcome to the Hand of God. Welcome to this segment. I'm tired right now. I didn't have much to eat yesterday, so, rebound. Anyway, thank you to my returning viewers. For those of you who are new, I'll more fully introduce myself. My given name is CHIMAOGE. Another name I let anyone call me is Moge, M-A-O-G-E. Didn't always do that, but I do now. People can pick between those two, but CHIMAOGE is my given name. That's the name I identify most of myself. My government name is CHIMAOGE Chijioke Ibe, and another white structured name for me is CHIMAOGE VENMO. My matrilineage hails from VENMO, and the reference point for my patrilineage is Oji Lurata. Those are two villages in West Africa. You can look them up. Then I was born in what is now considered Washington, D.C. by most people. I just don't like to call it that because that is an arbitrary designation, not a natural one. But that's where I was born, and I currently live in Atlanta. I was born during Capricorn time. Okay, so I am a son of Capricorn, and that was in 1998. So, and I should note the beginning of 1998. It just, yeah. Anyway, that's me. This is one of my 6 networks to my media company. Each network functions differently in terms of the type of content it puts out, both because of how it looks to other people and then how it feels to me when I'm posting. That's the idea. So I hope it brings people a level of understanding of the ideas I'm putting out as well as myself. CHIMAOGE's comment here is devoted to many things, but 2 I want to highlight are 1, letting people know what the underpinnings of my thought are, and 2, further explaining things that I've said before. The Hand of God is specifically devoted to the second one. Okay, and this is a segment on live stream and also in shorts. Registered 2 viewers, thank you very much. Every view is a blessing. Calling all my ancestors to prayer. Any evil person away from this place. Only the big people talk. Yeah. 13 is on the screen. That's the number of viewers I have. 13 is the number of the leader. Is it? That's the number of cool. That's the number of integrity. That's the number of structural integrity. Yes. That's good. I see a comment. Thank you for the comment. Every comment is a blessing. I read comments at my discretion. Okay, so today we're talking about the self. And I've mentioned this before. I just wanted to go into it some more. I talk a lot about metaphysics. This is another metaphysical point. I spent a lot of time of late talking about the god of thunder. Ironically, the god of thunder has a hand in the self, but the self is its own independent thing. So I want to first and foremost talk about it in that right. Now, many people have philosophized about the self over the last several thousand years, for better or worse. I somewhat joked on a previous live stream on Inquiria as part of the anger segment. Check that out. That's another network here. That because of that, I could basically say anything, but I want to speak with a level of seriousness here. There's different levels of urgency for metaphysics and metaphysical information, but we should engage with them all. So learning about the self is not of the highest urgency, and I just say that because I don't want people to get distracted by conversations about the self, both ones that I begin and engage in and ones that I'm not a part of, just because I've seen that happen too much. At the same time, you can't only be concerned with what's literally in front of you, because if you do that, in a month you'll stumble. So I want to leave it at that. So I just want to begin here. 2 things to ground this conversation. 1, I deeply believe the things I'm about to tell you about the self, so don't doubt me. But 2, I want to acknowledge that um, these things are very hard to show. Okay. My deep belief comes primarily from prayer and thought, and I believe they can be substantiated, just it'll take time. I just want to begin discourse on this and also let my audience know what my belief is because it's very integral to things I say and do. Okay, here we go. So the self is one of the 49 things that undergird all of existence. The self is a thing that is more masculine than it is feminine. It's more energetic than it is substantive. But at the same time, it has a lot of substance to it. Okay. So the self is really the center of someone's being. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the biggest part of someone's being, and it's still a minority of someone's being because there are 48 other things. And then when those other things combine, a person's being expands. So there are different realms of existence. The self presents differently in different realms. And the self is very complicated because other things are integral to the self. In particular, the self determines one's personality archetype. That is based upon which things make up a person's being primarily. Because everyone has all the things on some level. But when you're looking at someone's personality and what they do that's different than other people, you have to look at their self. So in this world, which is where I want to focus because it's different other realms, in this world, every person has a self with 5 layers. For a standard person, each layer has a different thing. So one example is, let me draw a sample self. And let me try and, forgive me, I'm doing this on the fly. Let me try and use things that people will have a reference point for. But I want to acknowledge that limits this just because most of the things people don't have a proper reference for. Okay. Forgive me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just making sure. Let me number these just to make sure I have what I'm looking for. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Forgive me, I'm drawing. Okay. So let me show you the beginnings of the drawing. Let me stand, although I'm debating how to conserve my energy. I'm low on energy. By the way, please patronize me if you're able. As always, you can patronize me in ways that allow you to get something directly, and in ways that are, well, you can also just donate, which is a way to do it that is, I guess, just at least most directly one way. But you'll get something else spiritually for your donation. But, you know, I just want to acknowledge you won't see the tangible product right away. But anyway, you can buy my art. That's in the Patreon shop. You can buy my merchandise. That's in the Streamlabs merchandise store. I have both clothing and work materials, and I am in the process of adding other things. You can subscribe on Patreon, and then in addition to that, you can donate. You can donate on PayPal, VENMO, and Cash App. In the description of this video, I have those donation options, and then in the About section, you have those donation options, but then you also have the purchase and subscription options I was talking about. So please check that out because I am in need of food. I've mentioned before how my financial situation is. It's ironic. I'm in the process of expanding my work, adding avenues of work in addition to this. Because I just want to, and and this is part of myself, I'm always making an aside. Let me just flash the drawing I was talking about, then I'll explain it. I'm making the decision in real time. But I just want to note this because I think it's important. There is a culture, and I've been going against it, and it's caused me a lot of trouble. There is a culture of one, only having one job, and two, believing that unless the job involves someone else ordering you around, it's not valid. And as an aside to that, there's this concept of the side job, or quote unquote pursuing your dreams. Okay, I'm not operating within that nexus, and this is what I mean. I consider this, my media company, to be the base of my operations. An analogy I want to use is that this functions for me, how do I want to say it? I'll just say metaphysically, this functions for me like a investment savings plan in terms of the role it plays in my financial life. Now, again, I'll just say this is not financial advice. I wanna just say that, and I'm not necessarily how do I want to say it? I'm not telling people not to have a standard investment savings plan. I'm also not forcing you to do that, okay? I'm just trying to give you an idea of how it functions, because this is my what word do I want to use? This is what I need to feel financially solid. And I say that because this is something I control completely myself. Obviously, to the extent you can control anything completely yourself, but this is something I control completely myself that has potential to earn money. And then it also provides value into the world. And then spiritually, yes, I believe I get blessings from this. And I also enjoy doing this. So this is my base, okay? And I hope that analogy is clear. At the same time, I want to do other things as well. One, because ironically, this is not my number one thing. And that goes into my point of, and I'm going to discuss it with the self here, that goes into my point of not everyone, how should I say it? Let me articulate it like this. I'm making a point now that people should have more than one job, and this dovetails with that. Because my number one favorite line of work is playing soccer. Okay, I don't get to do it really, but I'm working on fixing that. And I've been on record saying that the sports world and sports culture needs to be reformed, okay? Because the vast majority of people who should be playing soccer are not able to, and it's not their fault. It's not our fault, okay? But I'll put that to the side. So that's one reason. And two, there are other things that even I might not enjoy as much as this, but I still want to do, okay? An example is one day I do want to do the equivalent, let me not use that wrong. Okay, I want to do, and I'll just say it in English, I want to do what basically people will call societal research, okay? Think of what like think tanks do, obviously in an ethical way. But I will not enjoy that as much as this, but I'll still enjoy it, okay? And again, I'm saying it like that just so you understand relative enjoyment. But any work I do, I will enjoy, even though it's also work, right? So because of that, this job is necessary, but it's not something that will satisfy me by itself. So that's one thing. The second area I'm engaging with is from a financial perspective. It doesn't make sense to only do one job, even the base. Now, I believe everyone should start with their base job, right? So at least if there's an emergency and other people aren't able to help you work, you can work on your own. Because people in this society have it backwards. They seek out the most collaborative work first, and they seek out collaborations with people who harm them. And then they're financially unstable. A lot of them get lulled into a false sense of security because maybe they have a 10-year stretch where they're not fired. But then after 10 years, they get fired and they're in calamity. And that also dovetails with a culture of not planning ahead properly. And I think a lot of people have a hard idea envisioning themselves living out their full lifespan. And that dovetails with a lot of self-deleterious behavior. Anyway, So I've gotten that out of the way, but I'm just saying this so that you can contextualize what I'm saying. I'm not a proponent of people who maybe dip into, because in my industry, this is a big problem. And I say this with respect to my other fellow online content creators or whatever, for lack of a better term, to the extent we even label ourselves correctly. Again, this is not everyone, this is a lot of people. A lot of people will dip in here for a year. They'll actually have a substantial following, and then they'll say, oh, I don't have enough money, let me go do what everyone else is doing. I think that's disingenuous. They're just not operating correctly. Anyway, so in order to maximize my financial options, I am going to add other lines of work. But again, this is not within the typical nexus. Because, for example, the next line of work I'm looking to add is still going to be self-operated. It just involved me working with other people. So one example of this, I don't want to announce everything now. I'll just say this because it's easiest to understand. For example, I'm gonna try and set up a system where if people wish, they can pay me to appear in their videos. Okay, that's collaborative work, but you know, it involves, like I still control that. Like if I don't want to appear in a video, I won't appear. That's not the typical quote unquote 9-to-5 job. Okay, I'm not gonna rely on that type of arrangement. And I do want to add in work that could involve me, say I could work with, say, a group that has typical job options, but I'll do so with flexibility, okay? But that's, again, the most collaborative type of work. I hope what you guys all understand what I'm saying. I'm operating in a different nexus. And I just want to add, part of the reason I'm saying this, and I'll make it explicit, is so many people told me I was being financially irresponsible by building up my base. It doesn't make any sense, especially because, I want to say this again, obtaining the most collaborative work is not fast and easy money. It takes months to apply. The way the world is set up, a lot of people after that job search do not obtain the job. And you know, those jobs come with harm many times if you pick the wrong one. And again, I want to say this. A lot of people have an illogical criminal mindset where they say that, one, they're basically saying what they're doing is scamming because they're saying you're getting fast, easy money. That's a scam. There's no such thing as ethical, fast, easy money, right? But two, the money was not actually fast and easy. They might have undergone a months or even years long process to obtain the job. And then they think that just because eventually they got the job, it was fast and easy. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. So back to my diagram of the self. And this is dovetailing what I'm talking about. Let me sit down. Okay. So the self for a person of this world, and I'll put on you can also call this world heaven. Let's see. Person of this. Added in various translations. Cabrinam no go. Yeah, like I was saying before, just as I'm in the position where I have enough energy to maximize my work options, you know, certain things that I've been making do with just fell through. And ironically, these were things that I was operating as if they were bonus because they were not reliable, okay? But, you know, it's still disappointing they fell through. And then I just haven't found the counterbalancing factor yet. And again, I just want to put this out as I guess, a call to help for other people as well. Please, if you are in a situation where you're financially stable, check on at least one person you know outside of your family financially and see what you can do for them. I'm not saying you have to do everything, that's difficult, but see if you can do something and see if you can get other people to do the same. And then within your family, call a group meeting and just have a financial breakdown for everyone overall. Because, forgive me, every comment is a blessing, but I take my discretion not to read certain comments. And of course, please be ethical in the comments. Anyway, yeah, but anyway, call a family meeting and have a group discussion about how your family's doing, because collectively families should provide for each other, especially if someone's in an emergency, because the world is in a rough state. Anyway, so the self. For a person of this world, it has 5 layers. The largest layer is the first layer, and that encompasses at least 70% of the self. So to use a typical example, because my ancestors are telling me the average person in this world has 80% of themselves in the first layer. I'll just put 80% here. Okay. So 80% of yourself on average for the average person will be here. The minimum is 70. And that is the one that I always refer to. The thing in this is the one I had always referred to as someone's thing, their thing of being. And that's the thing they're a part of. So that's the one I would say is their archetype, right? So for this person, I'm just going to use the example of the thing chi, happiness. Happy. Okay, I guess we spell it like that. It's my language. And then happy. And then, okay, so this is a person of happiness. Shout out to happiness. We do need happiness. And happiness is one of the more substantive things. I do want to note that you know, most people's self is the same energy category as their overall energy category. So for example, most men will have a self that is also a man, but there are a lot of exceptions. It's actually a 70-30 split. So it's really not a big thing. Don't assume that because you're talking to a man, their self is a man. Don't assume that because you're talking to a woman, their self is a woman. And then the energy levels can mix. So as an example here, and let me give this person a percentage breakdown. It has to add up to 100. Let me hope I don't make a mistake. My math is not, well, at least quick additions and subtractions are not my strongest suit. So let's make the next layer 15%. So we're at 95. I have 5%, 5 left. Here we go. Okay, let's hit 3 for the third one. So we're at 98. I have 2% left. Then the fourth one, let's do 1.5. And the fifth one, let's do 0.5. Okay, so these are their percents. And again, this is, here we go. Let me just say, knowledge from prayer has helped me a lot. But I will say from observing people and looking at personality archetypes, I've also put this together because I've seen some personality archetypes which say that a person's self is 100% one thing. I just don't, or here we go, and here I am. You know my belief about myself. It's not typical. I'll explain that at the end. I just think obviously the vast majority of people, their self is not just one thing because people are too diverse for that. And even for those of us, the Onishi, shout out to them, whose self is made up of one thing. We don't always show just that thing because of how the things intertwine. And this is when people are at their healthiest. When people are unhealthy, the self is all over the place. So that's something else. Anyway, so for this person, chi is a substantive thing. I'll make the second one a madioha. Why not? And I'm told that even having a madioha as a subordinate within yourself is rare. So some things are just rarer in existence. So let's make the second one a madioha. That's the god of thunder. And I'll just put the god of thunder. And I'll say this person is a woman. Why? Okay, person of this world, and this is Onwuku. Okay, they're the highest moral standing. Third, I'll put another energetic thing. I will actually put Ekwensu. Yes, you're not a bad person if Ekwensu is part of yourself. It's just, well, you have your own challenge. Really, Ekwensu becoming a person, ironically, is a form of the god of thunder because they have to overcome their self. But they're the only type of person who has to do that. And at the end, when they're there, when they fully actualize their potential, they just use the Ekwensu to do things. So they've subordinated the most unstable thing. So it's actually what is known as Ieze. It's cool. Yeah. Anyway, and I'll make the last two substantive things. Let's do Teta, which is wake. And I'll just say woke. And then the last one, let me do Aru, which is pressure. Most people in my language would pronounce it Aru. Pressure. Okay, that's also a substantive thing. So, this is my example. And this will eventually go into a short, okay? So, forgive me, I know this is a lot. But what am I trying to get across here? First, this is very obvious, but the self is complicated, okay? There are a lot of stereotypes people have about, gender in the world today, which is the same as people's energy categories. There's stereotypes people have about people's lineage and things like that, and they try to peg the person based upon that. My research on the self says, that's always been obviously crude and crass to me, but my research on the self says that that's beyond sacrilege. That is Aru Amadioha. That is abuse of the god of thunder, okay? And of course, that's also Aral. That's an abomination. So this is to show that things are more complicated than that. And then also, I want people to consider that for the average person, because the parts of their self interact with the outside world, how they'll present depends on what's going on. There is no healthy person that is always literally acting the same way in every scenario. That doesn't make sense. So for example, chi, happiness, can also be aggressive. If you attack a person whose thing is happiness, they might look like a madioha, but that's because they need to preserve themselves. Happiness is very self-oriented. So obviously there's a lot of depth to that. There's a lot to unpack here. I want to keep this example and just use it as a case study. And obviously it's a theoretical person. And obviously there's limitations to that. So yeah. But anyway, in line with the title of this live stream, I've shown that this person's self has 5 layers. But we have to remember, if you want to understand the person quickly, look at the first layer, okay? Because that's 80% of their being, and this filters throughout their entire being. And this self comes from its own unique self thing. No two people have the same self thing. Here we go. What do I do with the Onishi? Let me go into that now. So these are standard people in this world. The exception to this are Onishi. Each planet has, in a normal situation, one Onishi for each thing. And their self will be made up 100% of that thing. So I've been on the record saying I am Onishi Kala accounting for this planet, okay? My self thing is 100% the God of Thunder. Yes, that does mean I'm special. At the same time, at the same time, like I just ate some snacks. Okay, I'm a human being. So I'm not God. Okay. And special people are still people. The implications of being a person is that you need other people, okay? And no, I cannot do any and everything. Okay, I can't even cook. And to give a non-domestic example, on the soccer field, you will never catch me in goal. I will literally let the ball go in. I'm not destroying myself. Shout out to all the true inche out there. People who should be the position we now call goalkeeper, okay? Yeah, anyway. So, those people, have the self that is 100% one thing. And apparently in this world, you can't have other mixtures because my ancestors tell me that makes the self unstable. Why? I do not know. In other realms that can happen, but those selves are less stable. I do not know. And I want to note in realms outside of this world, the dominant self might have a different number of layers. For example, in the random, right, Ewu, apparently the dominant self has 4 things. So yeah. Anyway, I know I'm getting into abstract things, but I just want to note there are a lot of layers to this. Yeah. And then the elephant in the room. Since the self itself is one thing, what does it mean if someone's self thing has, on any level, the self in it? To be honest, I do not know. And I want to note also that I believe we as a category of life and really the world in general are not at our full capacity. So we literally do not have the full mental strength to understand metaphysical knowledge. That doesn't mean it can't be done. Okay, I'm not a proponent of the idea that there are ideas that it is categorically impossible to understand. I'm just saying that, we're not really there yet. So, don't overstress yourself if you don't get what I'm saying. And please add your own comments and critiques because I might be missing something. I'm trying to understand these things better myself. One goal I have is I want to create my own mechanism and at least help the world to create our own mechanisms to more reliably identify people's personality archetypes, both when they're themselves and when they're off. I think that's important. Let me talk about what went into me discovering this. Obviously, there's prayer. Should I discuss? Let me not go into prayer methods, but let me just say I pray, I get things. But then there's observations I've made. I've looked at other personality archetypes. I don't think any of them are complete. I mean, I won't say mine is complete, but they're helpful. I've looked at the personality archetyping for Ifa and other African spiritual systems. Ifa is the primary one I've looked at because that is the most comprehensive personality archetype system I've seen. They tend to call the personality archetypes orishas. Okay, I want to go back and do even more research on that. But that's helpful. That helped me realize. Should I say realize or articulate? I want to say both. It helped me both realize and articulate that Abu Onishi Kala Akana. Because I looked at the Shango archetype and I was like, okay, that's just me. That's kind of scary. Also, astrology. Astrology is a personality archetype thing. I think that really it'd be interesting to try and combine them. Because to me, astrology speaks about a person in their completion. And then the Ifa system talks about a person's central qualities. So you have to merge them both. Yeah, but astrology is very accurate. It's very accurate. I would recommend everyone look at that. It's helpful. Obviously, it won't be 100% accurate, but I find it to be very accurate. Seeing the qualities of Capricorns in common speech, it really helped me a lot to understand myself. Yeah, even things I would get on myself for, now I really try not to, because I know it's just part of having that as part of myself. I looked at those. I've also looked at I think it's called Myers-Briggs archetyping system. That was helpful as well. And then I've read about psychological profiling. I won't claim to be an expert there, but that began some thought. So those are the things I've looked at. Yeah, I want to be clear. I've never even taken a psychology class, but I just looked at things online. I've looked at videos. I won't claim to be an expert, but that helped begin some thought. What else? And then also just thinking about metaphysics and things in general, because the implications of other people having observed that, say there's something like a goddess of love archetype. Is it okay if that's a component of someone's being, it'll manifest a certain way? That's interesting. And then just observing people, of course. One other thing I want to note is this has been very helpful to me. This is actually when I'm trying to advance my understanding of myself. This is what I use the most. And I want to note that obviously I'm different than most people. So I'm not gonna just blindly tell everyone to do what I do, because I know a lot of people might not like looking at animals, for example. Although I find that hard to fathom, but oh Lord have mercy. I will say it is very Amadioha unique to look at animals, because animals as a concept are part of Amadioha, and then if you're identifying with them, you'll tend to look at the world leader animals. But stuff like animal totem systems and animal archetyping was very helpful. I need to go back and look at those things more. But yeah, that helps. And then along with that, observing nature, I've seen an eagle before. So, just thinking of that, I'm like, yeah, I'm like an eagle. And then also cats. Really, for most of my life, I didn't process how much I thought myself to be similar to cats. Because you have the dominant cat, a version of that. I think the most identifiable version of the cat, Agu, that you can see is what we call the jaguar. But then my ancestors, what I want to say? No, better to say it like this. There are different variants of Agu. So you have like Agu, the extreme cat, what we call the tiger. That's how we tend to identify it. And then Aguanyang, what we tend to call the lion, the solar cat. So they tend to be very similar, but they're variations. Yeah, so what we tend to call big cats, I've looked at those a lot, but even what we tend to call house cats, which is a small cat. By the way, please just let your pets free. Do it in a responsible way, but let them free. They're not our category of life. They do not like you. They do not understand you. You're keeping them captive. It's not healthy. If you want to see animals, safely see them in their natural environment. And I'll leave it at that. We shouldn't be oppressing other beings. But when I've looked at what we tend to call house cats, I think I've identified with them a lot. I just haven't really processed that. Because I really don't like dogs. And that's the domestic dog species. I think some wild dog species are cool, particularly the wolf. I mean, that's just very cool now. But, yeah, I've never been like, the house cat's a bad animal, because a lot of people, because it's very interesting. People tend to be very afraid their dog will run away. And I mean, I just stop at, why were you trying to own that thing? But obviously, if people just open their door, the dog will probably run away and be gone unless, you know, it's been trained a certain way. Cats, I've noticed, are different. They could leave, but a lot of people really don't have anxiety about the cat being outside roaming and then coming back. It seems the main problem with the way we engage with house cats is one, again, they're still oppressed, right? People still have this concept of I own them. So, you know, if they go away, people say my cat ran away. But then two, I think because of the way we obtain them, we isolate them from their social circle. So, for example, people will buy a kitten. That's a very heartless act. You've taken it away from its mother. Because we can't always assume that when other animals are themselves, they won't interact with us. I could really see cats naturally just coming up. Maybe we have an area for them. You give them food and they leave at their own discretion. Yeah, but I'm just saying that because I kind of feel like that a lot of times. It's just like I want to be able to roam, walk around, do my thing. And then, I mean, obviously I don't, I mean, I'm not saying I always walk. Sometimes it doesn't make sense for me to walk, but like I like a situation where I could walk somewhere, do something, and come back, right? I'm very active, but then I like it if someone, you know, has a space where I can come to rest. And then it's just a regal animal, yeah. And then what else am I trying to say? It's just something about, because also a lot of people have kind of said things like that. I feel like house cats, small cats, akunaba, well, the touch of the cat, ntagu, I feel like they kind of tolerate us, you know. The vibe I've always gotten from them is it's like, oh, there's a political situation here. Okay, I guess we have to deal with you, but they just like check in and then they do their thing. Yeah, I don't know. That seems like me. Anyway, Amadioha likes to talk. Well, Amadioha talks as part of his job. Let me say it like that. Okay. This is fruitful. I like this. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. But I'll just leave you with two things. One, when interacting with other people, just know that their self is deep. Everyone's self is deep, even if the person himself is not deep. Okay. And what I mean by that is maybe the person isn't all in the self isn't all in the mind. It could be in the rest of the person. So just know that when you're interacting with them, that entity is not shallow, even if the mind is. But two, also give yourself some credit if you're struggling to find yourself. It's not easy. And I will note, because there's a lot of calamity in the world, crime and things like that, it's hard for us to know ourselves. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. This is fruitful, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.